Hi, and welcome to Positive Relationships. My name is Irene Achia, and I'm a Christian counsellor. Today we're going to continue our discussion about the differences between men and women. We spoke about how men and women prefer to talk and not talk about problems. We spoke about how to show love and affection, they express it in different ways. And today we're going to talk about how they think differently. There is a great example out there about waffles and spaghetti when comparing men's brains and women's brains. Men's brains are a little bit like waffles, where each box has a particular category and a particular item that they're thinking about. Where men will tend to focus on one particular thing at a time, one issue or task at a time, complete that issue or task and move on to the next one. Whereas women can be thinking, feeling and talking about multiple issues at any given one time. If she's, for example, talking about a situation that occurred at work, she could quite easily relate that to an interaction that she may have had with her mum when she was younger, and that may relate to something that happened at school with a teacher at another time, and she's able to link things and relate things and thoughts and feelings and emotions in her mind quite easily, because every thought is like that noodle or that long spaghetti that touches many other strands of spaghetti as it gets pulled out and processed. Whereas men, like I said, can focus and concentrate and pay attention to a particular task, and that in isolation at any given time. If a woman feels that she's not understood, she gets more upset about more issues, as that strand of spaghetti touches more areas in her life. That feeling of unease or discomfort or sadness that she's going through starts to affect other areas of her life. Women can, though, make it a lot easier for men by telling them the outcome of the story and how it relates to the issue at hand before starting it. A classic example is where a couple are discussing something and she goes into an elaborate story where nothing really happened at the end of it, but it has a lot of parts where there could be risk of danger or harm. And with each time she mentions something, he's quickly jumping into problem-solving mode. Whereas it would be a lot easier for her to say, hey, I just want to share this story with you. I want to let you know about my day, without drawing him into the pressures that occurred up until those points. So he can sit back, relax, and hear the whole story and not jump into those problem-solving modes. Men also need to be okay to resolve their own issues before helping others, whereas women can often involve themselves in the problems of others to overcome their own issues. And this can be a point of contention in a lot of marriages, where in a relationship, he's thinking, we've got a problem that we need to resolve. And in the midst of that problem, she somehow has the ability to go out and to help others with sometimes a similar problem. And that's where, again, men and women can be quite different, where she will use those connections and those relationships to feel better and be able to come back and resolve and discuss the issue at home in a better way, and where he believes that, well, we need to actually resolve this in order to be able to move on or help anyone else in any of their problems. And just like they think differently, just like the waffles and the spaghetti, they also cope with stress differently. A lot of women want to talk when they're stressed. They want to be able to express their emotions, their frustrations and their fears, and have someone that will listen to them empathically, responding to them in an understanding way, in order to be able to overcome their stress and get to a point of calm and resolve the problem. Whereas men will often retreat to something that's been known or called as the cave. Let's take a moment and think about this cave. This cave has become a term that's used to explain what happens to a lot of men who face problems and how they deal with those problems. That cave can be anything from sitting on the couch watching a game to actually retreating in the garage and fixing something, or just being alone and flicking through a newspaper. But it's often in that space of time where he can tune out and he can lose awareness of everything that's around him until he eventually processes the problem that's going on and achieves the solution. And then he's ready to come out of that cave and re-engage with his wife. And you can see how they're different. So in a situation where she wants to achieve love and trust by sharing a problem, he doesn't want to share a problem because he doesn't want to burden her. And he also wants that time to retreat and to process and to come to a solution before discussing it. It's really important that we have an understanding that we do process problems differently and we cope with stress differently. It's important that he is able to say to her, look, darling, I just need this time to be able to think about this, then I'll be able to come back and talk about it. And for her to be able to respect the fact and know that he needs that time, not because he's neglecting her or not because he's not aware of her emotions, but because he needs that in order to be able to process the issue and then be able to re-engage and communicate with her. And ultimately, to know that together they're doing these things with the best of intentions towards one another. Because it's when we believe that we have those intentions that are positive towards one another, then we can start to see that our ways of coping with stress are simply different, not in opposition, and not because we want to hurt the other person. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next time when we talk about more positive relationships.